Oh, it says live. You can't. I don't know, some weird message popped up.
Sideways to rotate your device.
Okay, maybe. Well, hopefully we're not upside down. Anyways, hi everybody.
Hello.
So, welcome to OK2Bbroken. This will be our first live conversation that we have. And we wanted to chat with you guys a little bit today so we could talk about what is okay to be broken, where did the concept come from, what it is that we are actually doing with OK to Be Broken, and give you a little bit of information on what's coming up, because we have a few things coming up mid-October that we are launching. We are actually launching some stuff this week also, but that's more like website and whatnot. So we'll talk a little bit about that too. But first, I guess we should introduce ourselves. So my name is Tina.
And I'm Krista.
And together we came up with the idea of OK to Be Broken through, well, I would say quite a few lengthy conversations that we've had about grief and also about self-development. So OK to Be Broken, what was funny about this is not that long ago we actually did a survey, which is still ongoing, by the way. We'll repost a link, so anybody that would like to take the survey, please do so, because it helps us to gather information.
It helps us a lot.
Mm-hmm. But what was interesting when we were doing that and we were going to people and asking them if they could help us out, take a couple minutes out of their time to answer like 5 questions. It's literally just 5 questions. One of the first things that would happen is they would see OK to Be Broken and they'd do one of these little what? And I get it. I understand, I guess, to a certain degree why people would do that face. Because when you talk about it's okay to be broken, most people think, no, it's not. And because that's how we're raised. And maybe to take a step back from that too is to indicate that the concept of OK to Be Broken is to let people know that it's okay to be sad. It's okay to express, I guess the best way to say it is to express emotions that are deemed as not okay.
Yeah, and it's okay not to have it all together. Society really kind of expects us to put on a front and put on a face like we have it all together. Everything's fine and under control. And that's not always necessarily the case, and so we're often having to put up a front that is not genuine and that's not true, and that can be extremely painful and extremely difficult when we're going through those times in our lives that really do break us open.
And so we thought that, especially as it pertains to grief itself, it's a taboo subject to start with. We used to to run death cafes where people would come, have a coffee, tea, and we'd sit around a table and literally just talk about death, anything and everything to do with death. And it was interesting to see how people were happy to have an outlet where they could come and talk about anything that was on their mind as it pertained to death. And so as we're going around talking to people about grief and death and whatnot, a lot of people are saying we don't have enough support for that. We don't have enough tools to help us get through those times where we're grief stricken. there's also, when we were doing our breakdown of our courses and the topics that we would bring up in our groups, we talked a lot about societal expectations and shame that comes around, or that is often prevalent actually, when we talk about grief. Hence why we are also tying a self-development aspect to OK to Be Broken. So ultimately our goal with OK to Be Broken is to put out there, like Krista said, that it's okay to not have it together. It's okay to be sad. It's okay to be crying. It's okay to be struggling. It's okay to be angry. It's okay to need support. It's okay to reach out. It's okay to have a place where you can go and talk with other people that have experienced similar experiences, and you can share. And I guess one of our goals too that we've talked about is to try to create a sense of togetherness, a sense of community with individuals in those groups, so that they have that support that is kind of being built at the same time within those groups for themselves, so that they don't feel alone. I mean, everybody's experienced loss. And one of the things that we ask in our surveys, what do you consider grief, or being a part of grief? And most people will relate to the loss of a loved one. But we are also going to be covering in OK to Be Broken things like loss of a pet as well. Loss of what would be considered non-traditional
or ambiguous losses, so loss of mobility or health, loss of a job, and also the breakdown of a relationship in a separation or a divorce.
We had individuals in our survey that indicated that for them what was a big thing that they needed to grieve was their children leaving home when they were off to college. Another thing that we'll also be looking at is when we evolve as people, grieving our old selves is also something that not a lot of people look at. And we're not talking about grief as if it's this big, huge, black cloud that is over us all the time. Grief has no timeline. But what we do want to kind of put out there is that sometimes there are things that affect us in ways that we're not aware of because we were taught and told throughout our lifetime that that's just the way that it is, and you get over it and you move on. Whether that was when we were in school or whatever practices that were done in the home or outside of the home, like in churches and communities, in schools, I think I mentioned already, etc. So your whole experience throughout your life, you've been told different things by different people, and that kind of sticks, right? So part of what we want to work on is breaking through those stigmas. Now that being said, I guess we've talked a lot about little things here and there, but we've broken it down to specific things that we will be offering. First, we're going to start small. So we are in the beginning stages of growing and developing OK to Be Broken. So right now we've decided that we're going to focus on doing grief groups here in our home local area, which is the area of Bathurst, New Brunswick. And when we say local area, yes, we reside in Bathurst, but it doesn't mean that somebody from 100 kilometers away wouldn't be able to come and participate in our groups. And if the demand is big enough and there's enough people, it doesn't mean that we would also not take our services to an area within a couple hours drive of Bathurst itself. As we develop OK2Bbroken, we do have some content that we will be able to put online. We are going to be doing more of these lives, and the reason we're doing them live also is to show that it's okay if we mess up. It's okay if we're nervous, because we were both nervous doing this. It's okay if we don't have the right words all the time. It's okay if we forget what we're going to talk about, or you do like me and you babble on. This is just always going to be us in our natural states, talking as frankly and honestly as we can, and kind of just, yeah, us being us.
Being ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever that looks like on any given day.
Yeah, whether your hair is awesome or not. So we have grief groups, and there's different type of grief groups that we decided we were going to offer, and different ways that they will operate. So our first one is a monthly open group.
Related to the death of a loved one.
Mm-hmm.
So any adult who has experienced the death of a loved one and wants somewhere to go to be able to talk about that and move through their grief, that will be open once a month.
Mm-hmm. To everybody, which means that there's no registration needed. And we'll post more information for that. That particular group is going to be run by donation. Typically, what was it that we found is like $5 is the typical donation that people would put in the bucket at the door per se.
And that goes to cover the cost of coffee and tea and the room rental and those sorts of things.
Mm-hmm. The other type of group that we are going to actually be launching soon as well is what we're calling our Learn and Heal Nights. Now, Learn and Heal Nights, we've decided that those are going to be evenings where half the evening is spent giving out information on a particular subject. So, for example, we start with the loss of a loved one, and there would be different things that we would touch on that topic within that first half of the evening. The second half of the evening, we would kind of break out, have a question and answer period. We could have activities that we do in the groups as well to kind of open up what we've taught, and kind of bring that, I guess, more to like a group focus, I guess, for the second half. Those right now, we've decided we would do those monthly. Then we have a third type of group that we've decided that we wanted to also set up. And those are our 8-week grief groups. And those groups, there's an outline.
Those are closed groups.
Yes, they are closed.
And so they require registration
Mm-hmm.
and an intake.
Yes.
So you would meet with one of us or have a conversation over the phone before the group started. And as Tina was saying, there is an outline for the group. And every week we would have a specific area that we would be talking about and exploring and doing activities on. So things like who your support system is, who your support system was before your grief happened, and who your support system is after, and whether or not that has changed. We would be...
And the importance of a support group.
Yes, absolutely. The difference between the open and the closed group is that with the closed group, it's the same people every week. So there's a relationship that is built within that group, and a support within that group itself that is found. It also gives an opportunity to really work with things more in depth than there's the opportunity for in the open group as well.
Right, and we wanted to be very mindful of that, because when you do create a closed group, in those groups themselves is where I believe strong bonds can be created, but it's also where people can, I guess, get to confront certain things more openly as well, because it is the same people, and like Krista said, that trust and that bond gets created. You can go a little bit more in depth in the conversations. Now, I forgot to mention as well, for the Learn and Heal nights, those will also require an RSVP. And there is going to be a small door fee for those, and we'll announce that as we announce the groups themselves. There is also a fee that will be applied to the closed groups, and we will also announce that as those groups become available. Also, maybe something to note is on the Learn and Heal nights and the closed group nights, whatever materials that we will be sharing and teaching, we'll also be offering that to people. And I say teaching, but it's really more facilitating. We'll be offering those as well to the participants in the group. So just something to keep in mind. We have worked on a calendar. You can't see it, but it's right there. That's why I'm kind of looking over there, of when we're going to be launching which groups. And so far, when I look at the calendar, we're looking at the first full week of October, hopefully to be able to launch a couple of groups there, and to get that started. So if you live in the Bathurst, New Brunswick area, and like I said, that could expand up to a couple hours within Bathurst itself, and it's something you're interested in, you could always message us here on Facebook. We also have an email address, which is OK2Bbroken @gmail.com, so you could always email us there as well. And we do have a phone number, which we will post. Actually, I think it's posted on the site here. I just don't remember off the top of my head what the number is.
Yeah.
So if ever you had any questions or you wanted to participate, you could always call that number, and we will be more than happy to answer your questions.
The other type of support that we're offering is one-on-one. So if a group environment is just not comfortable for you, and you feel that you need something more direct, then certainly contact us and we can get that started for you. Myself, my background is working with bereaved individuals, particularly bereaved parents, because that is a road that I have walked. My son Caleb, he died maybe close to 20 years ago now. So I did some volunteer work with an organization in Ontario for a number of years, working one-on-one with people, and also facilitating closed groups and open groups as well. So that's my background, and Tina's background is as a psychotherapist. I don't know if you want to say more about your background.
I don't know, should I? Go ahead. You had something else you wanted to say?
And that you have support or experience with working with people one-on-one as well. So this is an opportunity that we've offered that is a bit different from the group environment. we find that with things that involve grief and involve shame, working with the group can be extremely powerful in moving through. And there's an extra dimension there that it brings a type of healing that is harder to access on a one-on-one basis sometimes. But certainly I understand not wanting to work within a group setting at certain times and during certain phases. So that's something that is available through us as well.
Yeah, and I guess a little bit about myself, like Krista said, I do have a certificate in spiritual psychotherapy. I've worked with clients that have experienced loss at all different levels. I've experienced losses myself as well. I've worked predominantly myself with individuals that also suffered a lot of trauma, and trauma tied to their loss, and also deep-rooted shame with the losses. And so it's another reason why when we were talking about the grief groups, we also decided that as the grief part of OK to Be Open, OK to Be Broken, sorry, kind of takes flight, we're also going to be working on self-development courses. And it's probably good to note also is that currently the grief groups themselves would be in English. Krista is learning French.
Very slowly.
Yeah, but she doesn't feel that she's at a level where she could co-facilitate a group in French at this point in time. So that being said, we may offer bilingual grief groups shortly in the future, but from launching they'll be in English. The self-discovery courses, those ones will be bilingual, and the one-on-one support would be bilingual as well, because with me, because I am fully bilingual. French is actually my first language, so we could set that up as well. Try checking our nifty little list here, make sure that we cover everything. I think we've covered everything. So the only thing I guess left to mention would be that we're working hard on our website, and we're hoping to be able to launch it by end of week, and that will have more detail on everything that we've talked about here today, and we'll have contact information on how to get a hold of us specifically, and it will be updated regularly with a calendar of events to show what it is that we're doing when. So if you felt drawn to participate in whatever offerings that we have, then you'll know the dates and you can join us.
Sounds awesome.
Anything else you want to say?
You did a great job.
You did too. So I guess on that note, we will leave you with the thought that it is okay to be broken, because through our brokenness is usually where we find our treasured self, our true authentic self, and it's usually where we find the connections that we need to be able to create a sense of community for ourselves. There's something that I was thinking about earlier, is that often, we are taught and told throughout our lifetime that outside of ourselves is where we find the answers. And I disagree with that. Outside of ourselves, we may find clues, connections, keys, people that will offer their experiences, but ultimately solutions for ourselves always always come from within ourselves. Somebody else cannot dictate for you what is best for you to do for yourself. You are the owner of that. You are the one that is responsible for that. And you are the only one that can action that. And so at OK2Bbroken, we are here to help, but we can't do the work for you. But we do know from our own experiences, because we've been broken a lot, still are, because I don't think that we ever fully are not broken. If somebody says they're not broken, then to me that raises a flag. Everybody has their cracks, but in those cracks is where you find the gems. Just like out of the fire rises the phoenix, it's the same kind of thing. And I had something else that I wanted to say, but something flashed on my screen and my thoughts just went boop, out the window. So maybe next time. Any words of wisdom on your behalf?
Not from me today.
Okay. All right, so we look forward to speaking with you more often. And we wish you a very happy Monday. Yeah, we'll talk to you soon. Cheers.
Bye-bye.
How do I turn this off? Okay. I don't know either. Nope, not that one. That'll just take